picked up William Dever's The Lives of Ordinary People in Ancient Israel on Gospel e-reads probably about a year ago, and then it sat on my to-reads list for about 6 months until I finally started to read it. I wasn't really sure what I was getting into reading this book. I was hoping to pick up a few interesting facts on the average Israelite during the time period of the divided kingdom. But if I knew how good this book was going to be, I would have read it straight away as soon as I purchased it. And also, if I didn't have it, I would want to go out and buy it for the full price of $15 digital or $27 for the paperback. It is worth the price. For most of my viewers of these reviews, I'm assuming that you are dedicated members of your church, or you're in church leadership, and you're looking to grow into a deeper understanding of the Bible. And for that reader, I want to give you 2 warnings. First, William Dever, the author of the book, is not a believer. He goes out of his way to say that he doesn't take any of his understanding of ancient Israel and base it on the Bible. He bases his understanding of ancient Israel on archaeology. And I personally prefer someone who is willing to look at ancient Israel from only an archaeological perspective, because it allows me to line up what they're saying with what I see the Bible saying. And it shocks me how often, actually not that much of a shock anymore, but how often it is that these archaeological views line right up with what the Bible is already saying. It's fantastic. And I never felt like this book at all undermined the view that I had of the Old Testament and what I believe was presented in the scriptures. And I think it's a big support that what we see in 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, the books of the major and minor prophets, their information lines up with the archaeological record we have today. My second warning before reading this book is that I think you could probably skip the first 2 chapters of the book. They are about how difficult it is to write a book on history, and you can pass it and not miss anything. But once Dever begins to describe ancient Israel, the lives of individual peoples, the layouts of the towns and the villages and the cities, I found this book to be shockingly enlightening, and it truly changed the way that I view the average Israelite. And a couple of my favorite quotes bring out some of these fascinating discoveries. Looking at Israel outside of Jerusalem and Samaria, Dever writes, "We do not yet have archaeologically attested sanctuaries, shrines, or temples." And this is important because there is assumption that the Jewish people of ancient Israel, the ancient Israelites, they didn't truly worship Yahweh, the invisible God, the creator of heaven and earth, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That a lot of it is a fabrication made by later rabbis and scribes in the intertestamental period. And the truth is, what we see in the archaeological record is that much of this area was monotheistic. They didn't have their own shrines and temples in every village and every town. We know about ones that are located in the high places based upon the biblical record primarily, but it shows that they were much more akin to following the Lord and only worshiping the one true God than we might initially assume based upon theories that have been brought out by historians and archaeologists. The second quote that I love is, "We have no indication whatsoever of tables, chairs, or for that matter, any eating utensils." We need to understand how primitive the lives were of the average Israelite during the divided kingdom. They lived a life that was so difficult, demanding, and harsh that most of us can't really understand what they had to endure. So maybe we could be just a little bit more sympathetic when we read about the struggles of those in the times of Elijah and Elisha. The third quote is, "Most authorities estimate that no more than 1% of the population of Israel and Judah in the Iron Age was literate." And this fact that 99% of Israel, 99% of Judah could not read the Mosaic Law shows us how important the priests and the scribes and the prophets were to teach God's people the law, and why God put so much blame on the leadership in these nations during the prophecies of Jeremiah and Ezekiel, talking about the reason that judgment was coming upon his nation. We need to understand the average Israelite couldn't read, and so their failure failure. And so the failure of the leaders to point them toward God's law was immense. So to every pastor, I would say, you should definitely read this book before you preach another sermon series on 1st and 2nd Kings or 1st and 2nd Chronicles or Isaiah or Jeremiah. Read these books to have a better view of the Israelites you'll be talking about. And to everyone in the church, if you want to gain a deeper understanding of what life was like for these amazing Old Testament characters that we read so much about, one of the best ways to get a glimpse of the lives of these individuals that we love in the Bible is by reading The Lives of Ordinary People in Ancient Israel by William Dever. This is a quality read. I highly recommend this book on Israel's history. If you enjoyed this review and would like to stay engaged in the exciting world of Christian literature, please subscribe to the Rev Reads YouTube channel.